Malcolm Elliot is the principal at Florida Nautical Surveyors. I'm going to give you a little bit of a readout on Malcolm's long and distinguished career and history. Can we quickly switch to the next panel? You all know that Malcolm's from Scotland, so we thought we'd help you out a little bit by bringing a translator in for us today.
This is going to be fun. I have no idea what this is about.
That's Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
For the hearing impaired.
Okay.
Malcolm left home and went off to start his seagoing career when he was 15. By the time he was 24, he was sailing as chief engineer and traveled as a troubleshooter around the world on a fleet of 73 ships before starting his own marine engineering and boat building company in Scotland. He's also involved in salmon fishing, salmon farming, and trucking industries. He has on here quite a long, detailed work history, bio, has worked on all kinds of different boats, has surveyed. How many boats did you survey in the last 12 months?
We surveyed 1,123 boats last year alone.
So they're starting to get a little feel for what they're doing in the marine surveying world. And Florida Nautical Surveyors truly is one of the go-to companies here in South Florida, the hub of the pleasure yachting world. So, to start it off, one of the reasons that we wanted to do this panel was because, A, in our pink sheets, we often have people ask, can you bring the surveyors up? We've got questions we'd like to ask. Malcolm was brave. He wore a white shirt and no foul weather gear. But then also they only served a few tomatoes with lunch today, so he wasn't really too worried about it. But what we wanted to do was to give you, the audience, an opportunity to ask surveyors some of the questions that you'd like to know. Why do we do certain things during a survey? But before we do that, one of the things that I'd like to do is ask Malcolm, what's the best advice you can give to the brokers about regarding survey day?
I have many different answers, but I'll give you the polite one. The best thing is, guys, we're not the enemy. That's what I always like to say. I learned a long time ago from Doc Austin, great guy, HMY, and he sat me in front of all his salespeople and said, "This is Malcolm Elliot. He's not the enemy. He's part of the business. So surveyors, as with brokers, as with everybody else in the business, we all work as a team. We're as surveyors, we actually got to be independent. You guys, I know you can't recommend a surveyor because of liability reasons, but we got to be independent. But at the same time, we kind of just go along and say, I think some surveyors, and maybe I've acted like that before in the past, that I've been like a prima donna. We think we know everything, and there's been animosity on the boat, and maybe we have killed a deal. I always say that surveyors don't kill a deal, the boat kills the deal. So if you guys do your due diligence before and talk to the client, the buyer, and then get a good surveyor in, not somebody that's just going to rubber stamp your deal, but get a good surveyor in, because going forward, you guys, if you get a bad surveyor in, the client will be upset with you. If you get a good surveyor in, he'll trust you much more than if you get a bad one. And like I said, if you get a good surveyor in that's got experience about those type of boats. And to be honest, I've got guys work for me that know go-fast boats. I've been on go-fast boats when I'm sitting there doing 112 miles an hour, think, what the hell am I doing here? Right? But if you get a good surveyor in and he has the knowledge to be able to talk, I always say bedside manner. So I try with all my guys, I've got 9 surveyors work for us. I think we're one of the busiest companies down here. I try and talk to my guys at least once a month, have a training day, either in the office or we go to the boat yard, and I walk around. I'm like the old guy. I'll show them things that I've learned over the years. So at the end of the day, my guys have got good bedside manners, so we can talk to the client. If we find something wrong with the boat, we can sit in there and explain. Right? I own the boat yard. I know that every boat can be repaired, whether it be fiberglass, aluminum, wood. I've done work on concrete boats. We've actually got a job just now in Borneo that we're going to go out for 2 submarines. So I've got a vast experience. I try and pass that on to my guys. Now, in short, to answer your question, to get prepared for the survey date, survey day, I think I wrote in one of the magazine articles I wrote, you've got to be prepared. You've got to get your boat prepared. You've got to get your hull surveyor. You've got to get him the location for the boat. The number of times nowadays I'm asked to find an engine surveyor, to find the boatyard, organize the haul out. And 10, 15 years ago, that was the brokers. The brokers organized it. All we got was a date and a time. And we'd say 7:30 in the morning, and we'd be there. And the rest of it was organized. But now it seems to be me, I don't know how many other hull surveyors are doing, but I'm organized a lot of the engine guys, a lot of the haul outs. And I think that's because we're so busy, and a lot of our stuff is last minute. So we're getting called in last minute, can you do this? So, when I send 5 or 6 jobs a week to, say, Norseman in Miami, or the same up in Seminole and Palm Beach, LMC, we're sending big boats there every week. So I can make a phone call and try and get the boat booked in, much more than what you guys can. On the boat itself, if you get the boat prepared, okay, if it's your listing, get knowledgeable about the boat, right? The number of times I go on board the boat and the broker has got no idea about the boat. The listing is inaccurate. He calls in some captain that is only called in for that day. That captain knows Hatteras. He has no idea about Vikings. He's a motor yacht guy, has no idea about sports fish. So you've got to match the captain to the boat. Listing sheets. You wouldn't believe the stuff that I see on listing sheets, which is totally inaccurate. And I'm not meaning maybe it's a year. I'm talking about wrong engines, wrong configuration. It's amazing how much wrong. Nowadays, it's getting much better. But a few years ago, the listing sheets were terrible. And then we're looking at that, and then brokers are saying, well, why are you writing this down? Well, it's got Caterpillar engines, not Detroit's. What we're supposed to write down, right? So, and then get the boat prepared before we get there, right? So the first thing is get your deal done, get the information for the engine surveyor, the hull surveyor, and the boatyard. Go there the day before. You're all making good commissions. Go there and prepare the boat. Not meaning that get some waters in there, get the fridge on, get the air conditioning running. Make sure that everything is nice and tidy. Get the smell out of the boat. I'm not meaning to hide the smell, but if the boat's been no air conditioning for 3 or 4 days down here, you walk on board and it's like, oh my God, the hell's that smell, right? Go around, flush the toilets, make sure it's all flushed out. Another thing that I see quite often, sports fishing boats, we go along, we open up the fish box. No power's been there for 3 or 4 days, and there's 2 wahoos sitting there. Oh my God, right? So, like I said, get the boat prepared. I made a joke at the last seminar I talked at. If you give the surveyor, it really makes the survey go easy if you've got some cold drinks and food. And I can tell you some of the best brokers for food, right? I can tell you some brokers that have got Publix, they've got Whole Foods, they've got Dunkin' Donuts, they've got Krispy Kremes. That's over 30 years I've been dealing with this. And we all laugh about that. But if you've got people from out of town coming down here in the summertime, and let's just say they're not used to the heat, but a little bit larger. There's no air conditioning. Even if there is air conditioning, when we're doing a survey, the doors are open and closing all the time. So many times we're asked, oh, the air conditioning's not working. The air conditioning's fine, but if you've got 6 or 8 people going in and out of the boat all day, it gets hot inside. So if you get the boat cooled down, you get some cold drinks for the people from out of town, you get some nice food on board the boat, they're comfortable. They're comfortable, the surveyors are comfortable, and then when the old stuff hits the fan, it's like, oh, well, let's go overcome this. It's not like, oh, we're sweating our asses off, and now it's getting worse. Now it's getting worse. And I've seen deals where people just walked away from it. I've seen people walk away because they're too hot, they're too frustrated. I've seen captains that's driven the boat out of the dock, they've gone out for a sea trial, and, in normal practice, we should be doing like a south run, different speeds, get up to maximum, turn around, come north just for the current to get the average speed. And I've turned to the captain, okay, captain, that's good, southbound, go northbound. And he's done a high-speed turn with a no pulling the throttles back. And he's taken off a 60-footer off top of a wave with a lady from Missouri flying across the flybridge. And she's looking at her husband going, what the hell just happened? And then when they get back to the dock, he's trying to back the boat in. He hits the pier, he hits the dolphin pool, he shoots forward, he comes back, and you can see them. They're looking between each other going, if a professional captain can't maneuver this boat, how are we supposed to? Another deal down the river. But who gets blamed? The surveyor, because we produce these findings lists, and it's much easier for you guys to blame the surveyor, not because we did a bad job, but because you wouldn't blame the captain for not driving the boat right. You wouldn't think about blaming yourselves. We're not preparing the boat right. It's much easier just to blame the surveyors.
You know, that is, you bring a really good point to bear. We spend a lot of our time as brokers focusing our attention on marketing, on promoting the boats, we spend a ton of money on getting leads. We work really hard to get to the point where we've got a deal going, and then we forget about finishing the deal. And finishing the deal, like Malcolm says, is having the boat ready to go for the survey. Some preparation, some documentation in place. Engine surveyors, we were going to have an engine surveyor here today, but basically the big takeaway for the engine surveyors, and this takes a little bit of work before you get to survey day, but you've got to have your records and you've got to have them on hand, and they've got to be updated and they've got to be accurate. So it's these details that pave the path for you and smooth the path. Malcolm,
if I can just say that as well, yeah. Paul, with regard to the engine, like when we get to the survey, the client asking, well, when was the boat last hauled out? So we turned the broker. No, it was the last 3 or 4 months. It turns out it was a year ago. When was the last time the heat exchangers were done? To a captain that's maybe been there. You know what? I think I got that 6 months ago. Well, it was 18 months ago. The engine surveyors, most of the independent engine surveyors, cannot obtain the records from, say, Caterpillar or however. The brokers, if they're being asked for service records, the broker's got to have the present owner call the engine manufacturer or the dealer and give the serial numbers, and then they can get the information. The independent engine surveyors, they might know somebody, but they've got to do it in a backward kind of way, backdoor kind of way to get the information. But if you guys ask the owner, if you're a listing broker, if you ask the owner to get the service records for his boat, and it's on hand. So when the question comes up, it's not like, well, we're not too sure, we'll get that information. Because then it starts to feel like, I've had plenty of buyers turn to me and say, you think that broker's trying to hide something? And depending on who it is, I'll say, no, it's I know him, he'll get the information. But on the day of the survey, if you have all that information, now I'll promote my other part of my company. We have the vessel oversight program. And what that means, excuse me, if we come in and we do a $2,000 survey on it's one survey day, we have a program where every 2, 3, whatever the frequency of the program is, we can go back we got one client signed up for every 2 months, another one for 6 months. So we go back in and say for like $500 or $600 for another inspection, and we go through all the items again. But we also, in that second survey, we list down all the maintenance work that's been done. And if, after a purchaser has just taken over the boat, he might have put in new TVs, or new stereos, new fridge, maybe serviced the engines by CAT or MTU, but we list down who actually did the work, right? And even if it was a mechanic on the side doing it, we'll list down. But John Doe came in and we'll write it down. And what we're doing there is hopefully we're bringing the standard of the boats up. So when they come back to be on the market again, you guys as brokers get a good listing, right? And plus you've got a full detailed survey and a history of all the maintenance that's been done in the last however long it is between sales.
Well, I know it's obvious, but one of the most important things that people look at in purchase of used cars, for example, these days, is they like certified pre-owned. And basically a program like that starts to give you a certification. While it may not be someone standing behind it, you have a detailed record keeping in place of what maintenance has been done. You have a provenance that you're building, and that does give value.
Well, we've been talking to some underwriters to see if a client signs up their boat into our program, they'll give a discount and insurance premium.
Well, the chances are that their fire extinguishing system is being maintained and it's up to date.
Well,
the chances are that their stabilizers, the cooling system's been cared for, the air conditioning and generator system have been looked after, and cooling systems have been taken care of, and lubricating oils have been changed, and fuel filters and all the different things that need to be done. There's documentation of that being done.
That was when Rob said about getting like 4 years. That's not a one-off. It's quite often we go in and we'll survey a boat, and 3 or 4, even a year or two later, we'll find that the safety systems have never been touched. We're looking for flares. And I've seen people get kind of pissed off with me because I find flares away underneath seats and underneath helms. And yes, they've got a current date on, and I'll leave them out. I said, those should be stored somewhere, out in the open. And there's, you got to put them back. Well, during the sea trial, I don't want my flares stuck away down there. Right? I'm on board the boat. I'm going to leave them out there. I'm getting over 30 years. I'm getting a few discussions about that. Same as EPIRBs, float-free EPIRBs, right? Wow, let's stick it under the console. That's a great place for it, because it's too difficult to climb up in the hardtop and mount it correctly. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of safety things that, a lot of boats meet the safety criteria, but it's not good practice the way they put them together. The flares should be out in the open. You should have a ditch bag ready. You should know. And in training, we're talking about fire training. If you have 70, 80-foot sports fish, there's no fire training on that. Not that I know. Maybe there's a captain that's coming from a big boat onto a smaller boat. They might say, the fire system's here, but there's no training, not a fire on board drill, for abandoning ship, so it's, that can be very dangerous. If you've got 3 or 4 crew, 3 or 4 owners on board, it's, you could have a loss of life of 7 or 8 people. So.
And all of this speaks to part of what we try to do. The reason we come to these seminars is because we want to be better professionals. And it's about being a 360-degree consultant in your industry. It's what makes you the professional. It's why you're here, to learn these different things. And while it may not be Broker 101 class, it's these things that we need to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, to provide a better service and to facilitate our deals and make things happen, make them go our way. Mm-hmm. Malcolm, what difference does it make if my surveyor's SAMS, SAMS, NAMS, or if he's my second cousin's brother-in-law's next-door neighbor? What difference does it make if the guy has these accreditations or not?
Well, this is a touchy subject with me, guys. Right? I say it. I've stood up in federal court and explained about this. There's basically about 3 or 4 different associations for surveyors. The one with the largest membership is SAMS, S-A-M-S, and then the next one is NAMS, and then ours, the one all of my guys are in, is ACMS. Being a Scotsman, I looked at the pricing, and it was $650, $550, and ours was $350. So to me, it was just a cost thing. They have ongoing training. Ongoing training, you have to stay a member of SAMS or NAMS, they've got 8 hours training. 8 points. 8 points, and this is per year. 8 points is the equivalent of 8 hours training. The 8 hours training is not sitting in some classroom with, like getting a degree. 8 hours training, you can go to a friendly boatyard, sit there and say, hey, can I watch your guy sand the bottom of a boat? And if you've got the boatyard owner signing off on it, he's got his 8 points. So he now stays it. I've had insurance and bankers saying, we can't accept your survey, Mr. Elliot, because you're not a member of SAMS or NAMS. I said, okay. So I said, the guy that was living on a sailboat, decided to become a surveyor, went to Chapman's in Stewart, did 163 hours, straight membership of SAMS, is more qualified than me after 49 years. I've got a Master's in Marine Engineering, Master's in Naval Architecture, and an unlimited Chief Engineer's license. Yet in America, I've had one of my surveys turned down because I wasn't a member of SAMS. So, like I say, it's a being of honor about these different associations. Some insurance companies, some finance companies, they say, "Oh, you must be this." But I don't really have a problem because most of the people in that business know me or know my company, so we can get our surveys through. But I know that there is difficulty in sometimes. But I fired one of my guys for stealing money and missing a lot of stuff. Wow! A month later, he's a member of SAMS. So after stealing money from me, and they say on there high morals.
So the premise is insurance companies and finance companies insist on certain standards.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So with regard to hulls, if hull soundings are performed at survey and all is reported well, but moisture readings show high with your moisture meter, what's the best practice for ensuring that we actually have a good hull?
Well, guys, I was at a seminar a few years ago there, and an expert stood up there and he said, if you go into a forest and you see a tree that's completely dry, the thing is going to fall over. He said, we've got wet, the trunk is moist, it stands up nice and straight. So we all said in the seminar, they asked the question, why is a wet hull bad against a dry hull? Of course, a lot of us should know the difference, right? I've seen with like balsa, it just crumbles next to nothing. It's just
mud.
It does. It just flakes away to nothing. I've seen foam. Oh my God! Some of the stories I could tell you would be interesting, but you have to buy my book. Okay.
Which is a phenomenal book, I might add.
Anyway, I've had them where we come along. This kind of leads into what I was going to be talking about sometime. I say I've got a $2 hammer, phenolic hammer. I've got a $1,500 moisture meter. That's calibrated once a year because we do Coast Guard work. And we got a $30,000 thermal imaging. Now, with experience, I can go along tapping the bottom of a boat, and I can find delamination. I can even find when it's a wet hull or a dry hull, just because I've been doing this for 30 years. So, and then I can put a moisture meter on. But I know that I'm not going to name names, but as a surveyor, as soon as the boat gets hauled out, he goes in his bag and comes out with a moisture meter, and it's wet. I'm like, wow, it's a wet hull. We had another job going on. I won't tell you who was involved or the type of boat, but it was a 116. My guys had started working on it just a month ago, and they got there at 7:30. They're calling me at 7:45 saying, boss, you better get down here. That's why is that? And it was a long story, but there was another surveyor brought in by the buyer's father. He got out of his car with 2 moisture meters, literally 2 in his hand, and came along the boat, which has only been hauled out the day before, down at Broward, and put his moisture meters on and said the hull's wet. And he said, he's telling the buyer it's wet. And the broker's going, what the heck? So I get down there. And I said, okay, guys, let's calm down. We bring our meters out. We put the moisture meter on. And it's elevated. Nothing more than what you'd expect for a hull that's only been out the water for a day. I say to people, if we're going to do moisture testing on a hull, let's keep the boat out the water for 5 days. Okay, then we can start grinding. Anyway, in that particular case, we put the moisture meter on, elevated. We went around that area with the thermal imaging. And that's a whole different story, thermal imaging. But we put that on, and there was nothing jumped out at us, as opposed to the other guys saying, it's terrible. So now they go up inside the boat, and I say to the people that are sanding the bottom of the boat, here, come here for a moment. And we sanded one area of the paint off. Then we sanded the paint and the fairing off. And I put my moisture meter on. Put it on, elevated. No paint, with just the fairing. It was between like moist to dry. And where there was just fiberglass, it was perfect. So I go up inside the boat, and here's the surveyor. And I know how you guys can curse surveyors. I would curse this guy, because he's sitting there. He's telling the clients, I heard him as I was coming down the companionway. He said, I'm telling you now, sir, this boat, the transom in this boat is destroyed. You're going to have to rip this whole transom apart, take that platform off. You're going to have to, recore it, the whole boat. And I came down and said, whoa, slow down here. But he had the ear of the buyer, right? And that guy with the 2 moisture meters killed the whole deal. And I actually said to him, come down and put your meters on here. And it was kind of a comedy thing because he was putting it on, but to justify himself, he was sliding it up onto the wet part. And I was grabbing his hand and pulling it down. He was sliding up and pulling it down. So it was kind of like a... But anyway, so you got to be careful with what you do. And some of the times we say, to answer Paul's question, we take a core sample, right? We get a core because a lot of these meters, they'll tell you something. But if you take a core sample and then actually look at the core, look at it and smell it. If you smell the core, you can tell a lot of the time. With experience, you can tell what's going on there. So.
And so if you've identified a serious problem, then you can go to destructive testing.
Yeah.
I think it's about perspective and about knowing how to read your equipment as well.
Exactly. Reading equipment is very important. So. And the thermal, just a moment, the thermal imaging. I bought my thermal imaging cameras when we had, well, Destiny's not in business anymore, so I can talk about them. The 3 Destinies that first came into the US, we had issues with the hull. And I say we can take the phenolic hammer, the plastic hammer, and tap on the hull, we can find it. But if I stand there and, as an expert witness in a case, and I'm saying, oh, I heard it, you'll get some attorney coming back to you and saying, oh, you're an expert on hearing. And so the phenolic hammer will find the delamination. The moisture meter will just tell us if it's caused by water or sometimes dryness. And then once we identify the area, we can take the thermal imaging camera and take an image in that. Because anybody coming along with a thermal imaging camera, unless you control the environment, and I'm meaning like basically make it a black, like in the inside of a building, introduce heat lamps on, and the best thing, if it's a white hull, is to get soluble spray, black spray, matte black. Because when you put the infrared on, if it can bounce back shadows, right? So to get a real good reading, sometimes I got to go upset. I don't know because I put them off by price. But to do it correctly, you sometimes got to do a thermal imaging inspection after 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, when it's as dark as possible. And you're out there with heat lamps and your cameras, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. So thermal imaging.
Does alcohol have any effect on the readings? 2 o'clock in the morning?
No, it depends what the alcohol is. The best thing about thermal imaging is we had the talk about the air conditioning this morning, and the thermal imaging is great for you can put it up and see where any air leakage is. You know, if you got the air outlet, but if it's leaking over here, same as on the chilled water lines, you can go along there. I found, again, I won't name manufacturers, but a lot of the chilled water lines, when they come up to a bulkhead, a fiberglass bulkhead, they stop the insulation 1 or 2 inches away from the wood. So on each side, you've got a 3/4 inch pipe with no insulation for 4 inches. And all get the condensation, and it's going right into the wood. So then we start finding rotten plywood bulkheads. And I had one steel boat where the condensation was such, it was dripping 5 spots in the engine room. Because the chilled water line came along, and each frame, there was a steel bracket came up and welded onto the pipe. And there was no insulation there. And the condensation over the years had been dripping down onto the hull. So it wasn't corroding the hull, it was actually eroding the hull. And you could see it was a smooth, just where the water was hitting and running down the hull. But it had been doing that for like 15 years. And we came in and and that was a Lloyd's boat. So now you got we don't do Lloyd's, so we're not class surveyors. So now when we find the issues, now you got to bring in the class surveyor. And then you start getting into hot work and welding and all that stuff.
So with your moisture meters and your phenolic camera, this is on a wooden or a fiberglass hull, on an aluminum hull, or on a steel hull. Right. What do we use for testing there?
Well, we're doing a Fed trip today, and we're up in Reykjavik, and we got 3 audio gauges. Okay. And again, the audio gauges, we do work for we got a contract with the Coast Guard for a small cutter that comes into man. That's aluminum cutters. So all our meters, we've got to go to get them recalibrated, serviced once a year. So we use an audio gauge on them. We have non-destructive testing audio gauging. We got both. The newer ones are all non-destructive, meaning we can come in without taking any of the coatings off, and we'll go through. We can go through. I think it's up to 3/4 of an inch of fairing to get into the paint. Now that might sound a lot, but if you go into some of the older Browards and even the newer Trinities, some of the Trinities have got like 1.5 inches of fairing on them along the hillsides. The bottoms of Browards are usually bare, no fairing on there, but on the sides, when you're measuring on there, that can have 3/4 of an inch. So our new meters, we can go through the paint and the fairing, but only if it's well adhered. If there's any air gaps between the paint and the metal, we just get a false reading. So,
how much training is involved with learning how to work an audio gauge?
49 years.
So start early.
Start early.
All right. So at the time of the survey, are both the buyers and sellers reps required to attend? And if one or the other fails to attend, who's the responsible party to the buyer or the seller? Are you responsible to the buyer or the seller?
Well, I'm hired by the buyer usually. Sometimes, like I say, there's a captain sent along, or if there's a regular crew on the boat. I'm sure if there's a captain that's employed by the owner, it's his responsibility. If there's no listing broker and no owner on board. But a lot of the boats we're on now, I would say 50%, we have both brokers do show up. And it's good because during the survey, if the listing broker, if we have any questions, we can make a list of questions. We can say to the listing broker, can you phone your owner up and just ask him, hey, before I start writing down that this is not working, that's not working, I teach my guys as well. Ask the broker, ask an owner, ask the broker to get in touch with the owner. How do we turn on this? Or, where's the switch for that? Before we say, sometimes underwater lights, they're way down underneath here. The breaker's on, but there's a second switch way down the bottom. We'd write it up.
Well, that speaks to being prepared for your survey as well and knowing where things are.
Right.
Checking on the day before.
Yeah.
So if a buyer hires a surveyor, at the time of the surveyor, how is the seller protected in the event of a false claim, in the event a false claim is made on his or her vessel? So the buyer hires you to come out and check the boat, and how's the seller protected if there's a false claim made? Is there any protection for them?
I don't believe so, but I don't make false claims.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Okay.
No, I think, I've been accused of sometimes writing something up, and the seller doesn't believe that there's something wrong with his boat. So then that gets into kind of, I've had a boat with delamination. Everybody says no delamination. So the broker said, I believe you, Malcolm, selling broker. He said, I believe you, Malcolm, but I'm in agreement that if we're going to hold the boat out at my expense, but if you're correct, they're going to pay for it. He said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. So we actually went along. We could push the hull up on an 85-foot boat. It was flexing that much. So it was very proven. So, yeah, there's sometimes I'm sure if the owner will, if the owner's there, usually the owner's not there, the seller's not there. But if the broker finds, if he comes back to me and says, the switch for the underwater lights is away underneath the cockpit, can you have somebody go and prove it? And I said, sure. And we just did this yesterday, not because of something that we claim, but the broker called up and said, hey, we've got a 48-foot azimuth and the radar's fixed now. People are out of town. Do you have somebody to be able to do it? And I'm like, 5:30 at night? So I had to get one of my guys just to run down in town here, switch a radar on, and prove it worked. And then your deal goes ahead. But we're pretty easy going like that. If you guys come back to us and say, there's you were wrong. Okay, we're wrong. We'll hold our hands up. We're not like going to say no, right? We're the surveyors. We know what we're talking about. If somebody says to me that one of my guys made a mistake, fine. I'm a big boy. I'll take responsible, and I will go that extra yard to make sure the client is happy. And trust me, I want all you guys, all the brokers out there, to be very, very, very successful. Because I surveyed 1,123 boats last year, from a 10-foot boat, 10-foot custom carbon fiber tender, selling for $45,000, up to 247-foot Lursen for $103 million. So if you guys are selling all those boats in between, it'll keep me and my guys busy. So
I'm sure there's someone in the audience who has some questions for Malcolm. It's a rare opportunity to ask the surveyor.
Or can I be selective about who's...
You can.
Trevor
Carroll's not allowed to ask any questions.
Trevor Carroll and Jeff's here somewhere, isn't he? So. Oh, there's one Jeff there. There's another Jeff somewhere.
We got Jeffs we haven't used yet.
Yeah.
That's Dimetap. You've got the wrong medicine.
Well, it was an adult one. He was 2-year-old. And
are you sure you want to tell this story?
Since Trevor Carroll threw it out, my ex-wife gave my 2-year-old an adult size, what is it, Benadryl or Dimetap? Trevor was about to get married. He's on his phone to his wife going, oh my God, when we have children, I want him just like Liam here. He's such well behaved. Poor kids like limp. Anyway.
If we don't have any other questions, then we're gonna excuse ourselves.
Drink time.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Okay.